Chapter 316, Stopping over Hong Kong. Hong Kong International Airport. Carrying travel bags, Tang Xiu exited the airport after Yi Lianyan and saw Hao Lei waiting outside. The present Hao Lei looked even more beautiful and attractive, however, what Tang Xiu cared about was the faint fluctuation of true essence coming out from her. That's a very fast progress. Tang Xiu secretly praised inside, as he then approached. Boss, it's been laborious for you. Hao Lei looked at Tang Xiu, while her eyes only swept over Yi Lianyan. She smiled and respectfully said. You've been waiting for long, haven't you? Anyway, I'll be staying in Hong Kong for the night, please arrange accommodations. And, remember to book me an early morning flight to the mainland, said Tang Xiu as he nodded to her. Hao Lei nodded with a smile. Then, Tang Xiu turned to look at Yi Lianyan, asking, Are you going back today or tomorrow? Hesitating for a moment, Yi Lianyan then whispered, Big brother Tang, is the hotel you're going to stay particularly expensive? If it's too expensive, I may not be able to afford staying there. Tang Xiu couldn't help laughing. I'm not going to stay in the hotel. I'll stay in my own place. You have real estate in Hong Kong? Yi Lianyan was astounded. You can say that. Tang Xiu chuckled. Yi Lianyan quickly said, Then I presume I'll be staying overnight in your place. Are there enough rooms? Yes, said Tang Xiu. Secretly relieved inside, Yi Lianyan then said with a smile, Being in a trip for 2 or 3 days rather makes me worn out, so it's great to rest for the night. Right, I think it will be great to go straight home tomorrow, have a day off and then register myself for school afterward. Anyways, I haven't asked you about it. How were your CET scores? Which university you applied to? Asked Tang Xiu curiously. Shanghai Uni. It's fantastic, right? Said Yi Lianyan with a proud expression. Such coincidence. Tang Xiu's mouth twitched a few times as he forced out a wry smile. However, looking at her proud expression, he smiled and raised his thumb up exclaiming in praise, Yup, that's amazing. You don't know who I am, said Yi Lianyan with a gentle smile. Once we get there, you'll know that I am entirely worthy to be a goddess of the top students. Though I didn't get the top scorer in the CET science subject, I'm still in the top 10. You are hella amazing. Tang Xiu replied with a smile as he turned and walked toward the outside. As the duo followed Hao Lei to the parking lot, Yi Lianyan's eyes instantly stared wide with shock. She pointed at the Rolls-Royce limousine, asking, This car, is here to pick us up? At this moment, Hao Lei had already opened the door for Tang Xiu. Upon hearing Yi Lianyan's question, she smiled and said, Of course, why the question? Yi Lianyan hurriedly nodded. She knew that Tang Xiu was filthy rich. Because he was, after all, someone who could buy the entire 9 Dragons Island, thus he was definitely someone with money. But she didn't expect that Tang Xiu would even have a house in Hong Kong. Even the car that picked him up was worth at least thousands of luxurious cars. At this time, her curiosity toward Tang Xiu's identity was really piqued. After very carefully sitting on the car, she was seemingly afraid of dirtying it, looking uncomfortable and uneasy. Yi Lianyan stealthily glanced at Tang Xiu, trying to look calm as she spoke, Big brother Tang, what business are you in exactly? And this, beautiful big sis driver, what is she to you? My business is rather mixed to speak about, so I can't say anything about it specifically. As for who she is, you can ask her yourself. Anyways, I'll take a nap for a while, said Tang Xiu. Having said that, he directly closed his eyes. Hao Lei, who was driving, turned around as she revealed a charming smile. She gently used her hand to caress the hair on her forehead and then said with a slight smile, I'm the general manager of Grand Fortune Jewelries, you can call me Manager Hao. Or you can directly address me by my name, Hao Lei. How do you do, big sis Hao Lei? Yi Lianyan hurriedly cried. Immediately after, she stealthily took out her phone and browsed the information about Grand Fortune jewelries online. A few minutes later, an extreme shock covered her face as her eyes turned saucer and jaw dropped. The information she got from Baidu said that the Grand Fortune jewelries possessed total assets of over 10 billion yuan, whereas its general manager, Hao Lei herself, was touted as a successful and strong businesswoman in the business world, with distinguished social status, beauty and intelligence mixed into one. Heavens! Such a great person turns out to be Tang Xiu's employee. She even does such trivial matter as going to the airport to pick him up by herself? No, it isn't right. Could it be Tang Xiu is originally the big boss of Grand Fortune Jewelries? Deepwater Bay Road 13, Hong Kong. As the Rolls-Royce limousine entered the villa courtyard and parked in the parking lot, Hao Lei then got off to open the car's door for Tang Xiu as she said softly, "Boss, we've arrived." Tang Xiu opened his eyes and stretched out his body after getting out, saying, "You're not bad. Where are Tian Li and the others?" Hao Lei could clearly grasp the meaning behind Tang Xiu's sentence and quickly said, "They are still in Jingmen Island. I was ahead of them a step, so I returned to Hong Kong to deal with the work here. I'm also acting as ad interim." Nodding in response, Tang Xiu then said, "It's been laboring for you. Anyway, you can go back, I'll be fine here by myself. I'll be leaving Hong Kong tomorrow, but you don't need to send me off. I'll be just fine with a taxi." Understood. Hao Lei bowed slightly and then went to another sports car, opening its door and driving away. Having gotten off from the Rolls-Royce, Yi Lianyan felt as if she was in a dream. Being able to ride in such a luxurious car was already quite shocking, but it never came to her that Tang Xiu's house would be such a large mansion. Though this place was comparable and had no difference with the castle in Nine Dragons Island, Hong Kong was a place where the land price was astronomical. Such a mansion was absolutely priceless. "You're really filthy rich, Big Brother Tang." Yi Lianyan thought it was enough for her to inquire about Tang Xiu at the airport, yet now her charming face turned slightly red as even her ears faintly felt hot. "Work hard and you'll be very rich in the future," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "Will do, absolutely. Even if what I earn might be less than you, but I must surpass the others," said Yi Lianyan resolutely. Tang Xiu couldn't help bursting into laughter. He then commanded a maid and ordered them to take Yi Lianyan to rest. Tang Xiu then went to the room on the second floor. He wanted to call his mother back in the car but recalled that he was going back tomorrow, so he was prepared to give her a pleasant surprise. "I have to visit Li Jiren." In actuality, Tang Xiu himself didn't feel tired. Given his physical condition, he wouldn't feel tired even if he had to travel for a year or so. The reason why he wanted to stop over in Hong Kong for a night was that there were some things he needed to discuss with Li Jiren. "Hello, may I ask who I am speaking with?" After calling Li Jiren's private number, the one who answered his call was a woman. "I'm looking for Li Jiren." "May I trouble you to call him over?" asked Tang Xiu. "May I ask your name, sir?" "Tang Xiu." "Mr. Tang, I'm really sorry. Our boss is having a midday rest and is temporarily unable to answer. I will inform him after he wakes up." "All right." After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu saw the time at 2 p.m. He immediately went downstairs and told the maids to prepare lunch. To his surprise, Yi Lianyan, who was originally yelling that she was tired, was unexpectedly full of spirit as she fiddled with her tablet in the hall. "Aren't you tired?" asked Tang Xiu curiously. "I was. But my tiredness went out when I arrived here." "Big Brother Tang, do you have anything to do in the afternoon? If it's fine with you, how about accompanying me shopping?" said Yi Lianyan with a laugh. "No," Tang Xiu shook his head. "I have some matters to take care of." "You just came back, and you already have things to do?" asked Yi Lianyan, astonished. "I need to see someone." Yi Lianyan suddenly understood as she nodded and said, "Well, since you don't have time, then I'll go shopping myself." I originally intended to fly straight to the mainland from abroad, but I didn't expect that I would actually run to Hong Kong. I heard the place is a shopping paradise, so I must experience it well. Pay attention to your safety. If you have trouble, call Hao Lei. I'll give her cell number to you later, said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. Okay. Yi Lianyan replied with a smile. Deepwater Base 79th. Li Jiren had just woken up from his sleep. The older he got, the lesser his energy day by day. Although he maintained his condition well, yet he couldn't resist his old age sapping away his vitality. A few minutes later, he went out of his bedroom and intended to read a book in his study room. But his coadjutress was sitting on the front seat in the corner of the corridor, reading a document. Was there something? The coadjutress got up and respectfully replied, "You missed 2 calls." Who were they? Li Jiren came over and asked. One is boss Ma Kaiwan from the mainland, and the other one is Tang Xiu, said the coadjutress. Tang Xiu? For a moment, Li Jiren was surprised, as his expression then changed. He didn't care about Ma Kaiwan's phone call, but Tang Xiu's call made him concerned. Due to the mysteriousness of the everlasting feast hall, he had no choice but be very prudent and careful in dealing with its boss, Tang Xiu. He then looked at the call log and then dialed Tang Xiu's number. Little brother Tang, were you looking for me? Li Jiren said with a smile. The coadjutress, who stood at his side, had yet to see Tang Xiu. Seeing that Li Jiren didn't call boss Ma Kaiwan first and instead called Tang Xiu, whose voice was very young, made her secretly surprised. Yes. I want to talk to you about some things. Do you have some time for us to meet? Asked Tang Xiu. Li Jiren laughed. Were you someone else, I may not have the time. But for little brother Tang, I have time to spare. Anyways, pick the place, I'll be there shortly. I'm not familiar with Hong Kong, it's your call, said Tang Xiu. Pondering for a moment, Li Jiren then said, then let us meet in Purple Bamboo Tea Garden. I'll send you the address later. All right. After hanging up the phone, Li Jiren abandoned his intention of reading a book and said, tell someone to prepare a car, I'll be going out. I'll arrange it now. Half an hour later. Purple Bamboo Tea Garden was a rather remote place in Repulse Bay. There were no high-rise buildings in the area, only a lush bamboo forest. After Tang Xiu arrived there, he was stopped by the guards at the sentry post. Hello, sir. Please show your membership card. I don't have a membership card here, Tang Xiu shook his head. But I have an appointment to meet a friend here. He's Li Jiren, you know about him, no? The security guard was slightly surprised for a moment before he replied with a much more respectful attitude. Ah. You're Mr. Tang? Elderly Li has been here for a while. He's waiting for you inside. Chapter 317, Return Trip. As he entered the bamboo grove, Tang Xiu saw a European-styled 3-storied small building. As he parked the car, Li Jiren's coadjutress greeted him, asking his identity and then led him to one of the small buildings inside. Little brother Tang, we meet again. Li Jiren got up and greeted him with a smile. Tang Xiu faintly smiled and shook hands with him as he said, I'm really troubling elderly Li running here especially. In fact, my trip to Hong Kong this time is about a small business deal I want to negotiate with you. Ah. What kind of business deal? Asked Li Jiren curiously after motioning for Tang Xiu to sit down. To my knowledge, one of your companies seems to be a shipping company. Hence, I want to rent some cargo ships from you. I can't determine for how long, but I'll pay you on a monthly basis, said Tang Xiu. Little brother Tang, what will you do with the ships? Asked Li Jiren, confused. I bought an island in the Pacific Ocean and am having some work done on the island. The project itself has quite a large amount of work being done on it and needs cargo ships to transport goods and cargoes. I have actually ordered several cargo planes from abroad and also rented some cargo ships from Saipan, yet the number is far from enough, said Tang Xiu. How many ships do you need? Asked Li Jiren. About 20 ships, said Tang Xiu. Li Jiren was secretly startled inside as he gasped in admiration, little brother Tang truly has a big capital. All right, I'll rent you 20 ships, and it doesn't matter how long you will use them. As for the rental fee, it's free. I owe your restaurant a favor, so it's rather unjustified were I to collect fee. No, Tang Xiu shook his head. In business negotiations, money is the thing we mustn't do without. Quote your price, else I'll rent the ships from someone else. Well, since you insist on paying, then I'll accept it, Li Jiren forced a smile and said, as for the price, you quote it. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment and then slowly said, if so, I'll call my friend who contracted my project later. He'll come to Hong Kong to handle the rental formalities with you. Li Jiren nodded and curiously asked, little brother Tang, the purchase of the private island and its reconstruction should have cost you a lot, no? I don't know whether it's inappropriate to ask, why did you buy an island? Could it be that you want to retire and seclude yourself from the rest of the world? No, nothing like that, Tang Xiu laughed. It's not to seclude myself from the outside world. Besides, the transportation means is so advanced. It's just my selfish dream of building my own Shangri-La. But what can be built in the future, I don't know about it yet. Spending a lot of money for the sake of personal dreams. You're also a willful and unrestrained man. Li Jiren laughed. Come, let us taste the tea, it is really great. All right. For more than half an hour, Tang Xiu and Li Jiren chatted in the purple bamboo tea garden before he then left in a hurry. He then called Hao Lei's number, asking her to check the renting price for a cargo ship. When he got the reply, he transferred a sum of money as a charter deposit to Li Jiren's company account. At night, Tang Xiu met Yi Lianyan, who was carrying a large bag and coming back to Deepwater Bay Road 13th. Looking at her panting appearance, he smiled and said, what a great harvest, eh? Yi Lianyan threw her things on the sofa and then wiped off the sweat on her face before she replied with a forced smile, I regret strolling out and shopping. This damn weather is awfully hot. Do you see that white box? Inside is a gift for you. You can regard it as my thanks for spending more than half of my summer vacation freeloading in your place. A gift? Tang Xiu rarely received gifts from others, so he was curious. What would Yi Lianyan gift him? However, when he opened the white box, he was quite dumbstruck and tongue-tied before he asked, are you sure this is my gift? In the white box was a very cute fist-sized purple-colored lucky doll. Of course it's your gift, said Yi Lianyan, continuing, I spent quite a long time in the novelty shop before I picked it up. Big brother Tang, the aura of killing surrounding you is rather too heavy. You don't talk and smile happily at your normal times. If any strangers see you in the city, they will surely get the hell away from you. So a thought crossed my mind that it'd be interesting to tie a lucky doll on your arm. It should make others feel that you're very easy to approach. Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he asked in astonishment, did you just say my murderous intent is heavy? Yi Lianyan recalled the first time she saw Tang Xiu. He was covered by blood, wearing a grim and cold expression on his face. She nodded, though I know that killing pirates is a good deed, you have, after all, killed people. Bah, it's not like I fear you'll have a shadow within your heart, though. Like I said, it's my gift to you. If you don't like it, I'll get it back. I like it, thanks a bunch, Tang Xiu laughed. Yi Lianyan nodded with a contented expression. The next day, Tang Xiu gazed after Yi Lianyan as she entered the departure gate. He could see that she looked somewhat dismayed as he shook the mobile in her hand. Half an hour later, he also took a plane, however, his destination was not Blue City, but Jingmen Island. As he arrived at Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall, it was already 10 a.m. Grandmaster, are you going to see Master now? Asked Gu Xiaoxue after she saw Tang Xiu. Yes, I must go see her now. Also, get me the wild ginseng I bought in Hong Kong, I'll concoct a medication for her, said Tang Xiu. Elder Ji brought the wild ginseng. She has been accompanying Master in the exquisite pagoda after she came back. At this time, she should be cultivating inside the exquisite pagoda, said Gu Xiaoxue. Quickly, the two people went inside the exquisite pagoda. After seeing Ji Qimei, Tang Xiu then asked her the strain of wild ginseng, then went to the sickbed on the 7th, where Gu Yan was laying in lethargic slumber. How long has it been since Yan last woke up? It's been 5 months and 9 days. According to the previous regular pattern, how long does she still need to wake up? Asked Tang Xiu once again. It should take another month or so. But she might wake up earlier since she has taken the concocted pill, said Gu Xiaoxue. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment before he said, I'll be returning to Star City today since Shanghai Uni will begin a new term by early September, and I have to go there to register myself. I'll stay here, so look for Ouyang Lulu to borrow her private jet. Afterward, you have to call me once Yan wakes up, I'll be here as fast as possible. Understood. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. Tang Xiu asked Ji Qimei a knife and cut a piece from the wild ginseng and fed it to Gu Yan. Immediately, he put his hand on her chest center acupoints, gently rubbing it for half a minute. Every 7 days, cut a piece of wild ginseng and feed it to Gu Yan, and then rub her chest center acupoints by half a minute to help her absorb the medicine. All right, Gu Xiaoxue nodded and said, I'll do it myself. You go out. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, I'll be here accompanying Yan. After Gu Xiaoxue and Ji Qimei left, Tang Xiu gently hugged Gu Yan and let her lean on his arms as he spoke softly, Yan, I can't always be with you as your master as I have a lot of things to do. Not only do I have to go to college to fulfill my mother's wish, I also have to make a lot of money to buy massive cultivation resources for cultivation. However, you don't need to worry, I'll cultivate hard and wait until my cultivation is strong enough, so I can find a way to find the cure for you. Moreover, I found an island on Earth that is very similar to the one we once lived, the 9 Dragons Spitting Pearls secret area. I'll bring the exquisite pagoda there myself after finishing the reconstruction. I'll think about every means possible to place you there when the time comes. Also, Master has found the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi there. Once I move you there, I'll try to find a way to infuse the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi into your body. Your physique will be improved and would be very good for you. Please, wake up faster. Master really wants to see your happy and smiling expression. Tang Xiu rambled until night fell as he then left the exquisite pagoda. As he was dining at the restaurant, Ouyang Lulu came. Tang Xiu, I heard you want to borrow my private jet? She sat down at Tang Xiu's opposite side. Without even the slightest politeness, she grabbed a dish among the tableware on the other side to try it out as she asked. Yup. I need to borrow your private jet, said Tang Xiu. Ouyang Lulu gave him big rolling eyes and snapped, Nope, I won't lend it to you. Huh? Tang Xiu stared blankly as he then immediately laughed, We are friends, right? Humph, Ouyang Lulu snorted and said, Don't use our friendship identity to threaten me. You haven't fulfilled your promise yet, I've been nagged for a long time. I promised you something? Tang Xiu was puzzled and asked, What did I promise? Ouyang Lulu heavily slammed the chopsticks as she used her arms on the table to support her standing. She bent down and angrily said, You promised me that you'll go to my home and see my parents, didn't you? And what happened then? It's been 2 months, right? Yet you haven't gone to my home until now. Tang Xiu was struck speechless. He had forgotten his promise to Ouyang Lulu due to the successive encounters with various issues. After hesitating, he probed, How about going there tonight? Ouyang Lulu raised her chin and hummed, Humph, not tonight. My parents are not on Jingmen Island, it's useless even if you visit now. Bah, forget it. Considering you're willing to see my parents for my sake, I'll no longer bicker with you. That private jet of mine is parked at the airport, you can use it at your will. I'll send the order to the pilot and the cabin attendant's cell numbers to you so you can contact them when you need them. Thanks, said Tang Xiu with a smile. Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes. She then picked up the chopsticks and said, knowing you is really bad luck, you know that? Every time you call me you're playing abroad, but you don't even take me with you. I don't care about it anymore. Let's have a good talk. You'd better make sure to bring me along should you got out again in the future. No problem. Tang Xiu laughed and promised. After the dinner, Tang Xiu got up and said, I'm leaving now. I'll go back to pack my things and return to Star City tonight. I'll have to go to Shanghai Uni to register myself the day after tomorrow. I've decided something, said Ouyang Lulu quickly. Huh? Tang Xiu was puzzled and asked, what did you decide? Humph, I won't tell you, Ouyang Lulu hummed and said, I'll only tell you later. Chapter 318, Excellence. The night in Star City was resplendent as though an illusion. The hanging specks of starlight in the night sky were as though the extension of a painting scroll. Shooting stars occasionally descended as if adding radiance to this painting. At the main entrance of South Gate Town's security post, the newly appointed security captain, Hu Siqing, was dressed in a brand new security uniform and was chatting with the vice captain of the security team. Old Yang, I used to be a security team captain in the headquarters. Every day we were hella busy there, we were oftentimes on duty at night and even often did a variety of things in the daytime, as well as spent a lot of time drilling. Working here is really relaxed and idle, kinda like a fish out of water. All of a sudden, with a smile, Hu Siqing spoke with satisfaction for his current state. The vice captain, Yang Bing, replied with a smile, almost all the heads of households living here are rich and powerful people. They are of distinguished status as well as good-natured, they rarely give us trouble. Also, our security team has a large number of men with strict surveillance and monitoring, so we usually have no problems for a year or so. Hu Siqing turned to look to the villa complex front gate and sighed with a bit of envy. True that. Those who can live here are surely the ones who are not short on money. I don't know whether I'll ever be able to live in such a luxurious villa. Yang Bing smiled and didn't reply. But inwardly, he secretly held Hu Siqing in contempt. Though the man was a captain of the Long Group's security team who had been assigned on duty here, his maximum wage would be at most at the level of those gold collars. Wanting to buy a villa here with such a level of salary, even the worst villa, even if he spent 100 or 200 years, was simply a dream. Screech. A taxi stopped in front of the villa complex entrance gate. Carrying a travel bag, Tang Xiu got off from the taxi and received the change from the driver. Afterward, he strode toward the security post at the entrance gate. He hadn't come back here for a month or two, and the feeling of coming back home made him happy. Stop. Who are you looking for? Hu Siqing used to work in the headquarters, so he still used a stiff tone and blunt attitude. It had become his habit to carefully scrutinize everyone. With a knitted brows, Tang Xiu replied, I live here. You? Hu Siqing wanted to speak but was quickly pulled by Yang Bing. With a smiling face, Yang Bing acted cordial as he smiled and said, Ah, you're back, Mr. Tang. It's been a long time since I last saw you. Tang Xiu gave him a trace of a smile as he nodded and said, there were things I needed to deal with outside the city. I just returned. Having said it, he shot a glance at Hu Siqing and strode inside the villa complex. Waiting until Tang Xiu's back disappeared at the corner inside, Yang Bing then secretly wiped off the cold sweat on his face as he forced a smile and said, Captain, you gotta change your attitude, really. This place is a luxury villa complex in Star City, not our Long Group's headquarters. The people living here are great figures we can't afford to provoke. Frowning, Hu Siqing replied, what do you mean? That kiddo said he lives here? Have you seen him before? Albeit reluctantly, Yang Bing said, Captain, it's not only me who have seen him. The entire security team's members of the villa complex have also seen him. Were he someone else, I wouldn't have talked to him all smiling. He's Tang Xiu, and he lives in the grandest mansion in this villa complex. What did you say? That grandest Kingview villa is his, asked Hu Siqing incredulously. Looking around and finding no one nearby, Yang Bing then nodded and whispered, yes, it's his. Also, I've heard a trusted news. He didn't buy that villa, it was our famous young Master Long who gifted it to him. You don't know it yet, but Tang Xiu and our young Master Long have a very, very good relationship. Shocked and surprised, Hu Siqing hastily asked, are you talking about Chief Long Zhengyu? Yang Bing nodded, yes, it's him. Chief Long Zhengyu. And Captain, you just came to assume office here, there are many things you don't know yet. Tang Xiu has very powerful people in his personal connection circle. The powerful characters I know of that have come to Southgate Town to find him were no less than 5. Who are they? Asked Hu Siqing curiously. Yang Bing whispered, our big boss, Long Hanwen, the Endless Virtue Pharmaceuticals boss, Chen Jizhong, the magnificent Tang Corp's general manager, Kong Xia, also several people with bodyguards, whose statuses are evidently not lower than our big boss who also came here to find Tang Xiu. Hiss, Hu Siqing suddenly heaved in a cold breath upon hearing it. All of a sudden, he secretly worried about his own attitude just now, for fear that Tang Xiu would be a narrow-minded person and bear a grudge. Were he to talk about it casually with the big boss, or with Chief Long Zhengyu, his position as Southgate Town security team's captain most likely would be lost. Troublesome, said Hu Siqing bitterly. Captain, you need to find your cousin. As far as I know, Manager Long and Tang Xiu have a good relationship, said Yang Bing whispered. For a moment, Hu Siqing stared blankly, as he then asked in amazement, do you mean? Yep. Yang Bing gave a direct reply. I got it, said Hu Siqing with a nod. Inside the Kingview Villa of Southgate Town, Mu Qingping was hugging Gu Yin as they read a book, while Gu Yin was wearing earphones and looked like a quiet kitty. At this time, even though Mu Qingping sat casually, yet she exuded a special bearing and aura. Be it her movements or her expression, they faintly exuded a noble aura. Big sis Mu. Seeing the mother and daughter in the hall, Tang Xiu immediately revealed a faint smile. Mu Qingping looked distracted and surprised for a moment. When she saw Tang Xiu, a look of joy was immediately revealed on her face. She gently pushed her daughter, stood and bent slightly as she then said with a smile, you've come back, and you look so tanned. Yet you seem to be healthier and more macho. The sunlight has been rather full, getting tanned is kinda inevitable, Tang Xiu said with a smile. By the way, how was the training outside? Have the 4 instructors left already? They have left, Mu Qingping nodded. They're really great instructors and have taught me a lot of things in this period of time. Back then, I always thought managing the family's chief daily necessities and other small things were what was required of the job, but little did I know that the world's top steward would simply be a multifunctional server. Yeah, that's the private title to the world's top chamberlains. Tang Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter. He shook his head and said, Big sis Mu, I just came back from 9 Dragons Island and started its reconstruction. The area is rather large and there are a lot of issues to manage. Therefore, you need to plan and coordinate the whole situation rather than manage trivial matters. I'll also find some reliable aides for you and then send them abroad for training for a period of time, before I send them to you to manage them. Understood. Mu Qingping nodded with a smile. At this time, Gu Yin had removed her earphone as a brilliant smile emerged on her small face. Opening her arms and hugging Tang Xiu, she grinned, Master, you finally came back. Grandma has been talking about you every day. And I'm sure she'd look for you if you had not come back. I know, Tang Xiu laughed and said, your grandmother has called me a lot. Immediately after, Tang Xiu looked to Mu Qingping and asked, has my mother come back yet? She hasn't, Mu Qingping replied with a smile, they are busy at work in the restaurant and rarely stay here. At most, they stay here for 2 days in a week. Tang Xiu was stunned for a moment as he then nodded and said, I see. Enin, play with your mom for a while. I'm gonna have a shower and change clothes first, then I'll take you to our family's restaurant to have a delicious meal. Great. Gu Yin immediately replied in a pleasant surprise. Wait, Mu Qingping quickly said, I still have something to report to you. What is it? Asked Tang Xiu, puzzled. It's the chief of Star City Medical Hospital, Mu Qingping said. He came here nearly every day and seemed to be in a hurry. He wanted me to tell you to contact him the moment you came back. Li Hongji? Recalling what he had promised to him, Tang Xiu forced a smile inwardly. The day after tomorrow was September 1st, and he would leave for Shanghai by tomorrow evening at the latest. How would he still have time to visit the hospital? After pondering for a moment, Tang Xiu took his mobile and dialed Li Hongji's cell number. Tang Xiu? Li Hongji's pleasantly surprised voice came out of the phone. Yes, it's Tang Xiu, President Li, Tang Xiu said with a smile. I came back late to the mainland due to circumstances. I know you want me to give medical service in the hospital, but I'll be leaving for Shanghai the day after tomorrow for the registration to Shanghai University. So I'm afraid I don't have much time. How about I first register to Shanghai University and then come back in October's holiday to give medical service? This? Li Hongji hesitated for a long time before he forced a wry smile and said, since it's the case then I'll drag it. Tang Xiu, you may not retract the appointment again. I'll be waiting for you on October 1st at the Chinese Medical Hospital. Deal, said Tang Xiu with a smile. After hanging up, he then went to the second floor to have a shower, changed his clothes and then brought Gu Yin to his family's restaurant. He wanted to give a surprise to his mother, hence, he didn't notify her. Ah, I'm so damn bored. At the restaurant's entrance, Banzhou stood in a black suit with a shiny hairdo, looking listless. Standing in front of him was similar bored Dingzi with a toothpick between his lips. If you're that bored, shall I help you find some fun? While holding Gu Yin, Tang Xiu appeared in front of the duo. Banzhou and Dingzi stared blankly for a moment. As they turned around and saw Tang Xiu, their eyes instantly turned bright as they shouted simultaneously, Boss, you're back. I just came back, Tang Xiu laughed and said, Where's my mom? Your parents are here. I'll go call them now, said Banzhou quickly. We'll go in ourselves, Tang Xiu waved to him. Ah, right. If you feel bored in the restaurant, I'll give you a new job. I'll also double your pay if you two do well. What new job do you want us to do, boss? Asked Banzhou and Dingzi quickly as their eyes turned bright. I'll see my mom first and then I'll talk to you about it in detail later, said Tang Xiu with a smile. Chapter 319, Recalling Past Events. The restaurant was doing good, it was jam-packed with visitors. The food was cheap and fine, causing many regular customers to come back. Coupled with favorable public praise that quickly passed from mouth to mouth, a lot of new customers came after hearing it. At this time, Su Lingyun could be said to be half worried and half pleasantly surprised because of successive expansion of the restaurant, still unable to accommodate all the coming guests. Tables were booked every day, and within the span of 2 hours after the restaurant was opened, all the tables and boxes had been reserved for noon and evening. Yunda, how about we get a few other stores next door? Asked Su Lingyun with a frown inside the office. After a month of rest and recovery, Tang Yunda's body had recovered well and was almost similar to a normal person's at present. Upon hearing his wife's words, he smiled and said, If you want it, then let's get it. The restaurant is doing great, and making a little bit more of money is always good. Pfft. Su Lingyun couldn't help laugh, shooting white eyes at her husband as she said all smiling, You're rich, I know that. And you may not have a liking to the restaurant business. But I can never get used to the life of a rich lady. I feel more secure making money by doing down-to-earth hard work. Little Yun, we are husband and wife, the closest person to each other in this world. I have given you all my bank cards as well as my stocks. What else is making you feel insecure? Besides, I have promised to never leave you again, so you can put your heart at ease. Having a steady and secure life and enjoying it. I'll support you unconditionally in whatever you want to do. Warmness filled Su Lingyun's heart upon hearing it, as her eyes filled with tenderness. Suddenly, she said, "Tell me, if I did my hair and such, would I look younger?" Caught by surprise, Tang Yunda was at a loss whether he should feel amused or cry, even without it. "You're always the most beautiful in my eyes. But if you want to do it, I'll accompany you."
Nah.
"I don't need to be accompanied." Though she said it like that, yet her heart was somewhat moved. But since she hadn't ever done such a thing, as well as knowing that it was rather expensive, she decided against it. She had tasted living in hardship and being poor. However much money she made, she didn't want to waste a penny for it. Knock, knock. The office's door was knocked and opened from the outside. As Tang Xiu entered holding Gu Yin, he could see Su Lingyun and Tang Yunda sitting on the sofa chatting. "Grandpa. Grandma." Gu Yin broke away from Tang Xiu's hand and ran over cheerfully. Su Lingyun was pleasantly surprised the moment she saw Tang Xiu. After hugging Gu Yin and kissing her delicate, cute little face, she then looked at Tang Xiu and said, "Brat, you unexpectedly came back without noticing me in advance.
Ah.
Look at your skin color. You're so dark and thin. You must have gotten into some hardships outside, right?" "I didn't get into any hardships, Mom," Tang Xiu faintly smiled and said, "I just got tanned by sunlight. It's normal." Having said that, he then looked at Tang Xiu, nodding to him and said, "Dad." Seeing Tang Xiu back, Tang Yunda was somewhat excited inwardly. Especially when Tang Xiu called him a dad, it made him excited inside. With a smile, he replied, "It's great that you came back. Your mom has literally been talking about you every day recently, for fear that you suffered some hardships out there." Tang Xiu shook his head, expressing that he was fine, as he said, "Mom, let's go home. I already told Big Sis Moo to prepare a meal. Just leave the restaurant business to the others." "Okay. My son came back, so I gotta make time for him even if the business is busy." Su Lingyun nodded with a smile and said,
Ah.
"Right, Sonny. I put your university admission notice inside your bedroom's drawer. I plan to go to Shanghai tomorrow night and register 2 days later," said Tang Xiu. "Xiu, your auntie sent some things a few days ago. They were put in your bedroom drawer. If you don't want to stay in a college dormitory in Shanghai, you can stay in the villa outside. I've also bought some real estates in Shanghai. You can find the deeds, keys, and whatnot in your drawer also. You can stay in any villa you pick," said Tang Yunda. Buying villas in Shanghai? Somehow, Tang Xiu was a bit surprised. Everyone knew that the housing prices in Shanghai were astronomical, for which a lot of people couldn't afford. After hesitating, he asked, "Dad, listening to you, you're rather rich, no?" Tang Yunda was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, "I had been harmed by someone and fell into a stupor all of a sudden. I haven't fulfilled my responsibilities to your mother, or else the both of you wouldn't have had suffered so many hardships for so many years. Anyways, let's talk while having the meal." Tang Xiu knew Tang Yunda had a story to tell. Even as how he had turned into a vegetative state, he wasn't yet clear about it. "Pack up first, Mom. I'm going to see Bansho and Dingzi and discuss something with them." "Go." Tang Xiu left Gu Yin there and left the office alone. After he found Bansho and Dingzi, he brought them to a secluded place on the roof of the restaurant. "Boss, could you tell us about our change of work now?" asked Bansho curiously. "The both of you are the men I subdued the earliest. I've been keeping an eye on you both for a long time, and compared with before, you're now a lot mature. So, I'm prepared to give you a very important and challenging work," said Tang Xiu. Bansho and Dingzi exchanged looks as happy expressions filled their eyes. Tang Xiu's approval and recognition made them very excited. I'm planning to adopt a group of orphans, but it's evidently unrealistic if I myself go to the orphanages to adopt them. Hence, I want you two to form 2 teams and find me good-natured kids across the country. Their ages are best around 2 to 8 years old, said Tang Xiu. Confused, Banzhou asked, why do you want to adopt so many children, boss? Don't ask, said Tang Xiu faintly, I want you to find street children, and they should be of good character. I'll send some people to check later. If you do this job well, let alone doubling your salary, rising it 10 times higher isn't a problem. Really? Dingxi's eyes stared with eyes wide, looking ecstatic. Absolutely. Tang Xiu laughed and said, before you two set up a team, I'll give you a sum of money each. I'll give an extra reward to anyone who does the job well. I assure you that this reward will be even better than money. Boss, how big is the team you need? Asked Banzhou quickly. It doesn't need to have a lot of people. Each of you can only take up to 6 people. I have to tell you, there are millions of street urchins in this world, but don't pick everyone you find. What I want is the kind of smart, sensible, and good-natured children. Do keep in mind that I want the best, don't make up the numbers with inferior ones. Banzhou and Dingxi instantly understood Tang Xiu's meaning. The duo nodded and indicated that they understood it clearly. Later on, I'll transfer 5 million yuan to each of your bank accounts. However you spend it, it's your call. But remember, each of you has to find 20 street children within 2 months, said Tang Xiu. 2 months? Banzhou and Dingxi exchanged looks yet again, a strong fighting spirit igniting inside them. Tang Xiu said again, 2 months later, some people will contact you, and you will have to hand over 40 street children to them. Wait until they take the street children, after which a series of tests will be conducted to screen out some of them. Between the street children you found, whoever has more children staying will prove which one of you did a better job. Boss, about the street urchins who get screened out, what are you going to do with them? Asked Banzhou. For them to be found by you is also a kind of fate. So I naturally will not allow them to be alone, forsaken and living a precocious life just like before. As for the arrangements, you don't have to think about it, said Tang Xiu faintly. Understood. The duo replied at the same time. Several minutes later. While holding Gu Yin's hand, Tang Xiu left the restaurant along with his parents. As they returned to Southgate Town, it was already 9 a.m. On the table, fine dishes had been personally served by Mu Qingping, of whom, under Su Lingyun's request and insistence, also joined the dinner. Then, Su Lingyun helped Mu Qingping pick up the leftovers dishes, whereas Tang Xiu and Tang Yunda went to the study room on the 2nd floor. Xiu, I've been to this study room, but I didn't touch anything inside. From the maids, Tang Yunda knew that Tang Xiu forbade anyone to enter his study room. He woke up and found he already had a grown-up son for whom he especially treasured. Hence, he explained about it for fear that Tang Xiu would be unhappy. It's okay, Dad. It's for the employees, Tang Xiu said and continued, anyways, let's talk about your matters. We haven't had a chance to chat since you woke up. Tang Yunda forced a smile and said, listening to your tone, I kind of have a feeling that you're the father and I'm the son. Tang Xiu looked distracted and stared blankly for a moment as he didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to having a father since he used to have only a mother before. All of a sudden, he got a father, hence, it was beyond his control when his habit took off. Let's chat, Dad. Tang Xiu sat on the sofa and casually took a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket. Pass me one. Clamping it on his fingers, Tang Yunda lit it up and slowly said after a few puffs, actually, before I became a vegetable, I was already rich. It's been 20 years now, and my identity and status were rather sensitive back then. Even the Tangs who knew my other identity were very few, amounting to, perhaps, no more than 10. What was your other identity? A soldier? Chapter 320, The Details of the Event. The The years and months full of uncommon events, splendid and colorful to the utmost. Tang Yunda's eyes were a bit blurred as past events and scenes moved as though clips flashing inside his mind. Heroic and unyielding men, an incessant hail of bullets in the flames of war, signifying the loyal soul, of hot-bloodedness and perseverance. After a long period of time, only then did Tang Yunda wake up from his reverie. A forced, wry smile was outlined on the corner of his mouth as he sighed. Yes, I was in China's Special Forces, the captain of Dragon Soul Special Corps that year, who shouldered the responsibility of protecting and defending the homeland. Our Dragon Soul Special Corps were the elites of the elites amongst the National Special Force troops. To enter, every individual was required to have strong combat capability as well as excellent teamwork awareness. We rarely stayed in the country and most of us were around the world, usually in one battle zone after another to carry out some extremely dangerous missions. 22 years ago, in my third year of duty as the captain of Dragon Soul Special Corps, my team members and I were trapped in a desperate and hopeless situation due to intelligence mistake. Eventually, 6 of my brother-in-arms were killed in battle, whereas I and 2 others broke through the tight encirclement. Afterward, the 3 of us went into hiding. We had to continue the mission and avenge the death of our brothers. When we received yet another intelligence, we moved in action again, falling yet again into the enemy's trap. That time, we were quite lucky, for we escaped by jumping into the river. However, one of my teammates got his leg shot, leading to its nerve necrosis, turning him into a cripple. As he spoke up to there, Tang Yunda stopped. He then looked at Tang Xiao and asked, "You should have been able to correctly guess it, no?" Tang Xiao nodded, "I can infer some things. The one who fed you the intelligence should be a traitor, right? Or, someone or some people intentionally wanted you to die abroad." A murderous glint flashed inside Tang Yunda's eyes as he muttered, "Exactly. They can't be counted as traitors, though, but it's true that some people did want me to stay abroad for good since the Tang family had 2 political enemies at the time, one of which possessed great power. After we escaped, I didn't let the other 2 brothers return to the homeland with me, because I already suspected that there was something wrong. When I returned back to the country, the military immediately apprehended me." During the explanation, Tang Yunda's intense killing intent was evident. After quietly listening to him, Tang Xiao finally figured out the whole story. In the past, after returning back to China, the military headquarters apprehended Tang Yunda and handed him over to the military court. He was accused of improper leadership and directing, leading to the devastation of the country's topmost special forces team. Thus, Tang Yunda concealed the news of his other 2 surviving teammates. Later on, after the Tang family paid a rather big price, only then did the military court release Tang Yunda. However, they kicked him out of the service in the end. The Tang's political enemies, however, forced the Tang family's head, Tang Guisheng, to banish him from the Tang family, or else it would taint the Tang family's influence and presence in the domestic political arena, leading to public outrage. Forced by the pressure, Tang Guisheng discussed with his son, Tang Yunda overnight. Finally, filled with grief and abjection, Tang Yunda left and distanced himself from his family, going to one of his comrades' hometown, Star City. "That was the reason you were living in Star City that year?" asked Tang Xiao with a frown. "Yes." Tang Yunda nodded and said, "My comrade-in-arms died in a foreign country and I knew he only had one elderly mother at home. Hence, I stayed in Star City to take care of her. In the 3rd month, after I settled down in Star City, the elderly woman died. Due to the pain and sorrow, I fell into depression and became a drunkard to forget it all for a period of time. Eventually, I got gastrorrhea and was hospitalized. It was there that I got acquainted with your mother, who was a nurse in the hospital." "How did you turn into a vegetative state back then?" asked Tang Xiao. Tang Yunda sighed, "When carrying out missions abroad, we once dealt with an organization called Ashura Hell, a mysterious organization with horrifying members. Those days, we killed their vice leader in order to rescue a hostage, which incited their crazy retaliation. We were entangled and trapped in 2 battles that time, both of which were orchestrated by that organization as well as the Tang family's political enemies. I presume they were collaborating because they shared the same interests. Ashura Hell? Tang Xiu secretly took a mental note of this name. Tang Yunda continued, I initially forbade my 2 brothers to come back to China with me because on one hand, it was necessary to clearly investigate why traitors would appear in the military intelligence system. On the other hand, I wanted those 2 brothers of mine to play dead in order to prevent the Ashura Hell organization to continue hunting them. However, that Ashura Hell organized people through various channels and finally found that I was in Star City. On that day, 5 people appeared, one of whom was the Ashura Hell's gold robe assassin, whereas the other 4 were silver robe assassins. According to my knowledge, the Ashura Hell organization is graded into ranks. From the lowest to the highest are black robe, silver robe, gold robe and purple robe assassins. Xiu, you gotta run if you encounter this Ashura Hell organization in the future. These people's means are extremely cruel. My strength was also considered as very formidable in the country back then, yet I was barely able to kill a gold robe assassin and 4 silver robe assassins with difficulty and, eventually, fell into a coma due to severe injuries. What's the nature of this organization exactly? Asked Tang Xiu. I don't know, Tang Yunda shook his head and said, though I had access to very high-level military secrets in the past, I still couldn't find out the type of existence and organization Ashura Hell was. Or, it could be that the country's leaders were also not sure what kind of nature or existence the Ashura Hell was exactly. Tang Xiu squinted his eyes and silently nodded. He could understand it. There were, after all, many special existences in the world. To outsiders, they were definitely regarded as a colossus, monsters whose strength was extremely terrifying. For instance, the existence of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tang Yunda said, when I left the army to live in Star City for a while, I secretly kept in touch with those 2 brothers of mine. The 3 of us formed a corporation which is run by my brothers. I have 40% shares of the company, and now the group has total assets of $10 billion in Hong Kong. The general headquarters is in Macau and it's called Flame Spirit Group. Tang Xiu himself didn't know much about those large groups, and he didn't know any corporation in Macau in particular. However, for a corporation to be able to amass $10 billion in assets proved its evident strength. His father possessing 40% of shares meant that he also had billions in total assets. Tang Yunda took a deep breath and bitterly said, I was actually feeling uneasy and restless even before someone from Ashura Hell found me back then. Hence, not only did I not held a wedding with your mother, I was even afraid to register our marriage certificate. I was really afraid that I would have an accident, then there would be nobody to take care of your mother. Thus, I secretly helped Su Shangwen to establish the Shangwen Group with a registered capital of 2 million yuan, which I gave him. But I never imagined that, after I got into an accident, not only did he fail to comply with the agreement to support your mother, allowing her to have a comfortable and rich life, he instead made all sorts of difficulties for the both of you. Do you mean, Tang Xiu was startled? You gave the venture capital to Su Shangwen and had an agreement with him? Yes, Tang Yunda nodded and said, think about it. How would a countryside young man who came to work in Star City possibly come up with a large sum of money and registered a company otherwise? I even helped him win his first few small projects. Tang Xiu slowly closed his eyes as the last bit of resentment in the bottom of his heart toward Tang Yunda disappeared without a trace. So, have you seen him now, Dad? Yes, Tang Yunda nodded and said, I visited him in jail. Nevertheless, he's your mother's blood brother, and blood is thicker than water. Though I hate him. You've said everything I wanted to know, Dad, Tang Xiu silently nodded and said, now, I just want to tell you one thing. Mom has been suffering for 2 decades and gave half of her life for you. So I hope you can make her happy. Tang Yunda couldn't help burst into laughter, saying, she's my wife. Of course, I'll make her happy. Not only her, but also you, my son, I'll also make you happy. I'll spare nothing to give you anything you want as long as it's within my ability. I'll also support you unconditionally in whatever you want to do. A trace of a smile emerged on Tang Shou's face as he said, "It's not good for a man to rely on his parents and the heavens, Dad. I will conquer a piece of the world with my own bare hands. Like father, like son, besides, the son of a hero must become a strong man too. You should understand these words, right, Dad?" "I do," said Tang Yunda with a laugh. Tang Shou nodded and then suddenly asked, "What are your future plans now?" "The most important thing is to accompany your mother. I've handed over all of my belongings to her, after which, I'll follow her in the future." "What about your revenge?" asked Tang Shou lightly. Tang Yunda was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "The enmity of that year will certainly be carried out, but not now. I've waited for 2 decades, I can wait a little more." Tang Shou took a deep breath and said in a cold voice, "When you got your revenge, let me know." Tang Yunda gave a faint smile and said, "Well, I've told you everything about me. Now, it's your turn. What have you done in all this time?" After organizing the words inwardly, Tang Shou replied, "I've established the magnificent Tang Corporation. It's a small enterprise, though. Also, I bought an island in the Pacific Ocean and now I'm sending some people to reconstruct it. It will be our family's supreme base in the future. In addition, I also have another identity, but Mom doesn't know about it yet. I'm the boss of the Everlasting Feast Hall in Jingmen Island." "The Everlasting Feast Hall?" Tang Yunda was puzzled. "How do you have a business in Jingmen Island?" "I can't tell you everything about this matter. I'll tell you later when the time is right. You only need to know that the Everlasting Feast Hall's people are our own." Tang Yunda nodded, "I understand." He pinched the cigarette butt off in the ashtray. After which, he asked, "It's quite expensive buying an island in the Pacific Ocean, isn't it?" Tang Shou said, "It is. I spent 2.5 billion yuan for it. I borrowed the money from Qin Shizhong, but I have paid it back to him already."